Hello and welcome to this Learn conversation together with the digital school NKI. This is a third conversation in a series of 4 about the future of interior design, the styling of apartments and houses and offices, and how the technological and sustainability trends in the world around us affect that part of business. My guests today are Sølvi Marie Fjeldstad from NKI and Anja Bisgaard from Spot Trends. Welcome, ladies. So we already had 2 conversations, and we talked a lot about how humans change, and therefore, with the digitalization and generational gaps and the new ways of both learning and working, and how that changes our needs for these spaces that we live and work in. And we also talked about overall trends. We just started discussing sustainability, and I think that's going to be a very important part of this conversation, where we talk about, how do you buy the materials? How do you connect the value chain? And how do you really get sustainability applied to the way that we arrange our living spaces? Sølvi, do you want to start with kind of your most important points for this conversation?
Yeah, I think, again, from being looked upon as pillow fluffers, another aspect is that people think that, is it necessary? Is it a luxury to renovate, to redo your areas? And is that sustainable? I'm thinking that if we as consultants or designers can help people create spaces that will last even if trends are changing, and that they are functional, then they will not have to repaint every 3 years because they've done good choices together with somebody with experience that can guide them. So in that aspect, I think it's sustainable. It's good for sustainability. And also then it's guiding people into materials. So that's a jungle. But again, then that needs, as we talked about earlier, it needs to be good channels to get information on the materials and what they contain.
Can I ask you, before Anja takes over with trends and the big picture, you mentioned something in our previous conversation that I got very inspired by, and it's the homemade, the near-made, the stuff that reminds us also of historically developed living trends in our area. So I'm a foreigner living in Scandinavia. I grew up in the south of Europe, and the way that the Scandinavians work the wood and the metals, it never stops to amazes me how beautiful and how well adjusted it is to this climate. So, homemade stuff and reparations applied to really good materials create perhaps for the necessary flexibility as our lives changes and our needs changes. And I don't know, I'm handing it over to Anja now.
The locally sourced and the repaired elements is one angle into sustainability. But if I may, I would like to, go back to the interior designer and how they should approach sustainability. And again, I want to highlight, and I know that this is something a lot of people also disagree on. I don't think that the interior designer should, it shouldn't be a choice for their clients to work sustainable or not. It should come to that point where it's just the way that we work. It's just the products that we source, that they are sustainable. And that is why it has to come from legislation. It's not going to come from the clients of interior designers saying, hey, I want a sustainable interior design. Can you help me with that? They want a new interior design, and just by common sense and by how our producing system works, it is sustainable and it is produced in a new way. It's a huge transition. I am fully aware of that. So on that way, we of course need to be patient in for us, for the whole industry to actually make that transition to the new systems that is being made. But I don't think they should leave it up to the clients to choose, do you want a sustainable home or do you want just a regular home? I think that it should just be the way that we should work in the future. And I do believe that it will come. It's just a massive, long transition. It's just as long as the industrialization. And I think we just become a little bit impatient that it should be now because, of course, of the climate. And of course it should be. But it also needs huge transition systems, and we need to push much harder on legislation for that to happen faster.
Can I ask you two things? One thing that I've learned from my own home project. So we were refurbishing a very old house, and I really wanted it to be smart. And, you know, my own, I didn't have an interior designer, but the people who were building it, rebuilding it, refurbishing it for me, they were advising me not to use Tibber. Tibber is a Norwegian company that allows you to align all of your electrical devices and charge when it's cheaper, and it's very useful in combination with electric car chargers, etc. And I got, you know, advice to use materials that were not natural and not sustainable because they were cheaper. And I honestly feel that I didn't get very good advice on building more sustainably. So in this case, actually, I was asking for things, and they were saying, you know, I even wanted just a basic wooden floor, and a traditional wooden floor. I don't mind if it cracks up, you know, it'll fit fine in this house. And they wanted a more expensive and a far more processed and a less natural floor. Well, how can we make interior designers love the traditional and natural stuff?
Well, I think we do, but again, it's you know, it is, as Anja says, it's a long process, and also we need to communicate and educate our suppliers as far as, you know, if it's an electrician that's going to work on a project, it's not, it's easier for him to pick something that he has in the back of his car. And he knows that he will earn a lot of money on it. You know, I'll put 25 spots in your ceiling because I earn 1,000 crowns per spot. I'm being a little nasty right now, but it's kind of some of the problems that we do get into. We have to fight to come through with our visions sometimes. So that's one thing. And then it's also, as far as colors, you know, you have to push through as a designer and tell both your clients and the people that's going to put it into your house that this is the end results that we want, and we want you to use this product, not a substitute. It's like if you go to the pharmacy, your doctor prescribes something, the pharmacist will ask you, do you want this instead because it's cheaper, but it's the same stuff? I always have to tell them, no, I want the stuff that my doctor wrote down, not the substitute, you know? So, yeah.
Anja?
The thing is, it's also become an extreme complexity when it comes to sustainability, like what really matters and what doesn't matter, and what is the right thing to do and what is a more wrong way to do and what is in between. And unfortunately, I also think that a lot of people, both designers, suppliers, and regular consumers, give up because it's a jungle to navigate through. And that is also why we need harder legislation. We need standardizations that we can rely on, just like we've done in beauty, just like we've done within toys and kids wear and all that stuff. That is a highly regulated area. And we need to do the same with fashion and furniture and interiors in order to have a more aligned set of rules, kind of, that everyone has to live under, and how they are also, followed up upon. So I think what you've looked into or ran into, Sylvia, is that complexity. It's about giving up and then choosing the easy solution. With that said, there's also a point in sustainability that, sometimes the man-made cycle is also a better choice. Plastic is actually a fantastic material compared to some organic materials, because it can be reused and reused and reused 100 times, and organic wood or organic cotton cannot do that. So it has a higher durability. We just need to put it in the right circular system. So sometimes the man-made is the good solution and is the more sustainable solution. We just need the back ends of our industrialized system to work with that.
Yeah. And well, this is what brings me actually then to another question to you ladies, inspired with what Anja said now. I saw a similar problem with architects in construction. And there were really interesting projects. One of them is by a company called Entra. They do a lot of business spaces, corporate house, I don't know the right word, but you know what I mean, offices in Norway. And they rebuilt a whole very venerable building in Oslo, completely out of circular reuse of materials. They had something like 27 different donor buildings. And the biggest problem they had was actually two things. One is to get architects to understand how do they work with old windows. How do they build, but the result was actually a building that feels very nice. It has a completely different feel than if you only used shiny new windows with exactly the here the windows were defining the building in a completely new way. But they also struggled with regulators, because all the building standards are not made for reused materials. And so you have to fight the regulation in order to do what's sustainable. And I think there might be something similar. You have to fight the tradition. You have to fight the habits and maybe even laziness. You have to find the business models, and you have to fight the regulation in order to do what's most sustainable in some of these interiors that you arrange and style. And that's not an easy fight to do.
Yeah, I think, and I think that, the rules or the standards that you can find online or we have something called the Norwegian standard, and you have to do buildings within tech. So for our students then, I mean, it's a jungle for us that's been in the profession for years, and for students, it's where do they look, And I think that maybe, like Anja says, focusing on that there should be laws, and it should be really a lot stricter as far as thinking about the future. I think that the best thing that student probably could do is ask questions, ask if they pick a product, try to figure it out, try to find out as much as possible about this product. And like Anja says, what is sustainable. It doesn't have to be wood the cotton industry is horrible, but still cotton is a natural product. So it's important. But I work on a project that I think is interesting, and it's frustrating. I work on an office project where they're moving into a really special building, and it's Snøhetta that's designing, and they have spent 7 years researching how to apply natural ventilation into the building. Mm-hmm. And of course, this the solutions will reflect what the walls are made of, how the ceilings are, and what the natural colors of the ceilings are, and things that I cannot say that I want white ceilings in this office space, because some things are really not touchable in this project. So I have to think different as well. And it can be frustrating, but it's also very, fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anja.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also think for these major and huge topics that is time spanning over a decade and taking a long time, I think we also, just to bring the complexity down, need to bring it back to daily day, and to say, for example, for an interior designer student, and even for myself in my line of work, is to also do keep pushing for the small things. Like when I engage with a client, I keep, exactly like you're saying, so we ask the question, keep pushing for, is there a more sustainable solution? Could we use this color, or could we use this color? So in my every client relation, like I keep just pushing for it and do small things at a time. And I really do believe that that is the way forward, because that is an education of the whole system, that we just keep pushing forward and do small things one at a time. So if an interior design consists of 10 things and maybe 3 of them are a more sustainable choice, and maybe the next time it's 4 things, then we're on the path of doing it and still being able to do something concretely today.
Yeah. There's like another example here, which I think is it's what I call a happy story. I worked on another office space where they wanted to have a low budget, and I said, okay, low budget is fine. Can we combine it with sustainability and buy used furniture, office furniture? Mm-hmm. And they said, sure, So we did, and not long ago, people were kind of like, are you going to use used office furniture for a new office, The same supplier of used office furniture, just last week, I think, they got into a co-working unit with one of the biggest office furniture suppliers. And that's a huge step, I think, and that's the right direction,
Mm-hmm. Really good. Especially good, perhaps, in a country as rich as Norway, where we weren't forced to do that before, and now we think that, doing the right thing is cool, and even maybe extra creative and extra inspiring. Mm. So, ladies, I'm taking with me quite a lot of points on, how we can influence the purchasing and the planning of these interior spaces, and that also Anja's point on that man-made is not always bad. It actually just needs to be used in the right setting and in the right way. The problem with plastic is maybe that it is too good in some ways, and we are making too much of it and we are throwing away too much of it. But if we manage to reuse it, it's an amazing product. Yes,
yeah, I can come with just a short example. Target, flooring company in Sweden, they have produced or being able to take the whole value chain. So they can actually take back their vinyl floors. And the vinyl floors are, of course, made of plastics, and they can re-granulate them and make them into new floors. So they've taken on the whole value chain, and that's a good example. And we need more companies to be able to do that. And they, create a contract with people saying, yeah, you can have them for 10 years and then we'll take them back. And then they'll granulate them into new floorings, and then that's how circularity comes in for example, a man-made product.
Wonderful. It's a great example.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We are going to meet in a couple of minutes to continue on our 4th conversation and the final one in this series. Thank you.